going yet. Okay, now I see. All right. Hello, everyone, and welcome to our Taco Tuesday. Today we have a wonderful special guest. She's Tracy Damario. She is a superstar director. She's been with Scentsy for 12 years, 12 and a half years, I learned tonight. And she's also was one of the shining stars just 2 years ago. She's amazing consultant. She's amazing leader. But one thing I know about Tracy is she does a lot of events, and she really has grown her business by doing many events with recruiting, getting sales, getting customers. So since we're hoping the world's going to slowly open up, depending on where you are, hopefully you guys can learn from Tracy how to do events. And I am going to turn the time over to Tracy so she can teach all of you her wonderful knowledge. So go ahead, Tracy.
Very good. Okay. Well, excellent. Let me see if I can get this. I like looking at people, so I just switch over my view real quick. So very good. Yeah, I'm really excited to have the opportunity to talk to you guys. And Sarah is right, just to give you a tiny little bit of history. So I started working the business just for mommy money. I thought it was a great product. I had have children with autism, and it was safe, and I loved that. So I was just having a great old time selling my Scentsy, doing traditional bag parties, an occasional home party. And then it came to be where my business just took off. I was really, really blessed with the opportunity of understanding how this could work by meeting great people like Sarah and seeing the success that she had had, and that really motivated and encouraged me. And so in about 18 years or 18 months time, I was making almost as much as my husband, who was an executive chef at the time, working 70 to 80 hours a week. We never saw him. It was not an ideal marriage/family type of situation. And so I said, Joe, if you will quit your job, your lifelong profession that you've been trained all the way up for, and I could really do the Scentsy thing. He's like, are you kidding me? I mean, you know, he just thought that was just mind blowing. Like, he couldn't believe I was asking him to do this. I said, no, I'm serious. Like, I can really do this. I know I can do more, even more with this. And through some conversation, he finally said, okay. And while there was 3 months that were pretty difficult, because my kids are like, who is this guy? Because, you know, he was never there. So it was a little challenging for 3 months. But what I found was that Joe needed a purpose. He needed to be a part of my business. And that's when I was like, okay, what can I do? You know, he's not a techie person. He's not going to be on my workstation. He's not going to go do a home party. And he was great at going to the post office and going to the bank runs and dropping up and picking up orders. That was good. But I needed to find a way to get him more invested. And that is when I was like, events. You know, again, 12 and a half years ago, Scentsy wasn't then what it is now, but there was still plenty of opportunities. And so what I did back before Facebook and social media is I just contacted some local events, places that had events like convention centers, churches, high schools, just different event centers, and said, you guys have anything happening? Well, there was a church that was close by that said, yeah, we're having something for $10 a table. You can set up your stuff. And that $10 went to then the church for their missions trips. I'm like, okay, I have 6 warmers and 22 bars. I'm going, I'm in. I mean, seriously, that's all I had, and $10. That was my first event. Joe helped me set up. He helped me get organized. It was really difficult when you have 6 warmers and 22 bars, but he was there and he was helpful. But this is when I realized now Joe has a purpose. He can be a part of this. He knows the product. We've been using the product. He's comfortable around people. And I said, this is it. So that's when I gave him the task. Joe, hook us up, get us booked out. And again, pre-social media at the time, he figured out a 60-mile radius of where we could travel to and just started calling places and finding out, what do you have on the calendar? What events do you have happening? We signed up for anything and everything that we could get to within an hour's drive. Now, here's some of the things that I want you guys to find. So now we've talked about how you can find them. Other great ways to find them now with social media, there's lots of Facebook groups. So for example, in my area, I happen to live in Missouri. There's Facebook groups that are called Missouri Fairs and Festivals. They have them by county even. Johnson County Fairs and Festivals, vendor events. So search in your area on social media for different, by city, by counties, by your state, areas that you're wanting to travel to. And odds are there's probably some Facebook groups that are already networking with vendors that are always looking for people who want to do events. Your friends and family, absolutely. That is who you should be saying, hey, I just started the Scentsy business, or I've been doing Scentsy for a while and I'm ready to do events. If you hear of anybody, whether it's a church, an organization, a county fair, anything, please let me know because I'd love the opportunity. So make sure you're letting people know that you'd like to do events. Now, if you're sitting there thinking, I never want to do an event, that is not my thing, I have no desire, that's okay too. But odds are at some point, as you're building your organization, there's going to be someone on your team that's going to say, I want to do an event. You're going to need to know how and where and why. So please stay with us so that you can share this information with them as well when that time occurs. Filling out the application, well, that should seem somewhat obvious, but just a little tip that I would highly recommend when you're filling out the application and it says name, please put Sensi Independent Consultant. Here's why that's important. There's not a policy that indicates there can only be one consultant, but I'll tell you personally, when I'm calling around and I'm looking for events that I might want to do, I ask the promoter, do you already have a Sensi consultant? Because if they do, honestly, in my opinion, I'll just keep going and making more phone calls because it's less likely that it's going to be beneficial for both of us to be there. Most events aren't large enough and are going to have enough traffic that it's going to be really beneficial. I'll find another opportunity if I just keep looking. But by putting Sensi Independent Consultant, that's typically how it would be typed up. And then I put dash Tracy Damario. If you're putting your name there and they say, what are you selling? And you say Sensi, when I call to see is there already a Sensi consultant and they've listed it Tracy Damario dash Sensi Independent Consultant, I might show up. And that's, you know, I might do well and you might do well, but odds are we'd both do better if there was only one of us there. So just a little tip there. Okay, what do I need? Now, like I said, I started very, very small. I did not go out and spend hundreds of dollars. I did not spend my family money to stock up on tons of product. I started small, and 12 years later, you know, I now do fairs and festivals where I will have thousands of dollars of product and I pay thousands of dollars to do the product. But again, I had to grow my business. I had to grow with it. And as my business evolved, it gave me the opportunity to do other things. But there's pros and cons to small and larger events. So we're going to talk about that in a minute. So in the event that you do not have any product on hand, that's okay. I can think of maybe a handful of times in my 12 years that a promoter has actually said to me, do you have cash and carry? And they demanded and or wanted or expected cash and carry. All the other times, they just want a vendor and you to pay the vendor fee. And the reality is whether you have a table full of product or not, you can still make this very beneficial for your business. So go with what you have. If you only have your starter kit, set it up, do a nice party display. That's all you need to get people over. And then focus on bookings and contact information, having conversations with people. That's where the money's at. Selling a 3-pack of bars is great. I understand we all want to sell. I get it. But at the end of the day, that's a one-time deal. Those conversations, that connection that you're making, that booking turns to more conversations. It turns to connections with people you wouldn't have known any other way. And hopefully it turns to either a repeat host or someone that you flip to join your team. Far more valuable than selling a 3-pack of bars. So don't get hung up on the product. Get hung up on making the best of what you have when you're going to do the event. So that's really important. The other thing is I'm a very simple person. So this works well for me. But simplicity is good when you're doing an event. Don't get hung up on, oh, I see all these fancy grid walls and all this fancy stuff that people are using. For a couple of years, I used a flat black sheet on my tables for a tablecloth. I didn't have the pretty tablecloth that said Sensi. That wasn't going to bring me more business, guys. I know we all want it. And when you have the means, that's great. But you don't need it to be successful at an event. That's not going to make you sell more Sensi because your tablecloth says Sensi. So think about what is in your best interest of spending, how to spend your money. Buy more light bulbs. Don't worry about the tablecloth, okay? I just want you guys to keep that in mind and not get overwhelmed on all the stuff. Instead, keep it simple. I put all my warmers on boxes for a very long time before I had any shelves to put them on my table. Guess what? I sold just as many warmers, okay? So again, you don't have to have all the stuff to be successful. And again, we talked about product or not, what product to take. You know, if you have a budget where you have some means to buy and invest in some product, then I would definitely tell you to spend the majority of that on bars and bulbs, because that's what most people still know and think of when they think of Sensi. But at the same time, I also recommend you highlighting some of the other products, even if it means you only have one of them. one diffuser, one wall fan. So at least you can have the conversation when they walk by and they say, oh, I got a whole drawer full of bars. Did you know we have diffusers? Did you know we have these wall fans? Now you can have a conversation, even if you only have one, about something else that maybe they didn't know that we offer. So that's what I would recommend as far as product to display. Again, your goal should be conversations and connection, always, always, always when doing events. Okay, so people often ask me like, well, how do I know how much product to take? That is really based on, if you have the ability to order product, it really depends on the amount of people they expect to come through. What I have found from experience is that younger, newer events, I start out really small. I go with, very little. And then year after year, typically, it's going to grow and expand as the event, gets more name recognition and then more consistency with people going. But again, I recommend taking less. Less is better. The last thing you want to do is be sitting on product. My goal is I have a lot of events in the fall. I go really heavy in the fall. And my goal is by January, I want the cupboard to be empty. If it's not, I'm really disappointed. And well, last year was a little disappointing because, well, we all know what happened. Some of my event promoters kept saying, yes, we're going. And then 2 weeks before, after I'd ordered product, we're not going. We're not having the event. I'm like, no, but that's okay. I pivoted and it all worked out fine. The cabinet just wasn't quite as empty as I had wanted. So again, go with less than more. Another question that's often asked to me is, what do you do if you don't have electricity? Or some of these large convention centers will charge, I have one event that charges $125 for electricity. And for some of you, you're like, oh my gosh, it's either $125 for electricity or I could order some more bars with $125. You make the decision what you feel is best for you. But the reality is the majority of people that are probably going to walk through that venue know what Scentsy is as far as warmers and wax. So you can probably get by without it, given that we now have Scentsy Go. Scentsy Go will do you good. We have room sprays, spray your tablecloths. We have Scentsy Fresh, better yet, you can spray it on all the fabric in the area and you can highlight them. So there are other ways now without electricity, bring your little charger for your phones if you're swiping your cards, but that it could be done. So you have to determine what do you feel like is best way to spend your money. If you have the means and it's reasonable, then always get electricity because your diffusers, of course, are going to look way more amazing. And many of our warmers actually display better plugged in. But that's just something to think about based on your situation and your circumstances and the means that you have. So this is one that I get asked a lot, and it's about door prices. I want to do a drawing box. So I am somewhat not a fan of the drawing boxes. And here's my reasons why. Now, I'm just sharing my best practices. What you guys do as business owners is totally up to you. But here's why. I used to have the cute little box that they sell in the consultant store. And I had the cute little pads that they sold in the consultant store. And I mean, I'd have people filling those out all day, and dropping them in that box. And I'd get so excited and I'd get home and I'd weed through those. No phone number. This one doesn't have an email address. This one doesn't have this, or you got these people who they fill it out for their cousin, their brother, their neighbor, they're dropping all these in here. Now, is that really going to be good for my business? Am I going to really get a lot of good follow-up through that? I have found the answer is no. So instead, what I do is I will have the drawing slips out on my table. I put the little pads throughout my booth. So they're like, oh, are you doing a drawing? Do you have a giveaway? Or if I'm not busy and I'm able to automatically say to them, oh, make sure you fill this out. I'm going to be doing a drawing. I then have them fill it out. But I am paying attention to them now. I'm engaging in conversation. I notice when, in fact, I'm talking to them. They've got a child there. Oh, is your little girl in dance? Well, I see she's wearing this dance competition shirt. Or does your son play baseball? I start having conversations with them and they start telling me. So now I'm thinking, well, did you know Scentsy does fundraisers? So I can throw that out there. Or they say, oh, I just lost my job. I'd love to have this diffuser while they're filling out the form. And I could say, then I'm thinking, I might be able to offer a booking opportunity here. Or I can talk about becoming a Scentsy consultant. So while they're filling it out, I'm having conversation with them. When they hand it to me and there's no email address, oh, I noticed you didn't put an email on here. I do a once a month newsletter. I'd love to have your email. Would you mind putting that down for me so you can get my newsletter, know about our specials? When they don't put a phone number down, I can say to them, oh, you know what? I do a VIP texting program. If you'd like to include your phone number, 1 to 2 times a month, you're going to get a text from me so you know about any specials, deals, promotions that we're having. Do you see the difference? When they hand me that slip, as soon as they walk away, I can turn that over and said, had a son in dance, talked about they're having a new baby, they're moving to Alaska, whatever little things I can think of. And then I can drop it in my bag behind my table. So now it has meaning and it has value. And it helps me do a better job of following up with conversations that are hopefully going to lead to bookings and or going to lead to joint conversations. So that's my feeling and my opinion on how I handle door prizes and or drawing boxes. Okay. So contact information. I know I've already said this a few times. I'm going to keep saying it, guys, because it is so critical. These are all people, or at least for the most part, they're going to be walking through that you probably would have never had the opportunity to meet if you were not at that event. So you need to take advantage of that. Sitting in your chair behind the booth is not going to get you that. Standing up, smiling, greeting people, asking them, do you have a consultant that takes good care of you? Initiating those conversations and then letting them know in whatever form you decide, whether it's a VIP little form that they fill out, whether it's on Amy. I don't know how many of you guys hopefully are using Amy. A lot of you guys hopefully are using Amy. If you're using Amy, there's a contact form. It's under the templates. If you do that, there's a contact. You could actually have it on your phone or on your iPad where they can click on it, fill in their name, their email, all of their information right there. And then that'll be available for you to do follow-up. It'll come up in your Amy and tell you that you have a to-do to follow up with these people that you met at this event that filled out your contact form. That's an option. I know people that use Google Forms, that they have a link. They have it set up and they have it opened up and they have people at their booth fill out their Google form. And of course, we have order forms. So you can be as old school or new school as you want to be, but just make sure that you're getting contact information. And then make notes. Like I said, anything that you've got that you talked to them about, they really wanted this warmer, they mentioned that they were relocating, anything and everything, because that's going to help you then engage in your follow-up conversations. So that's really, really important that you're doing that. Now, this is another thing that, like I said, when you're having conversations, I've had team members that have really struggled with this piece. When you have someone that is looking to purchase the villains warmer or a diffuser, or they're about to spend $75 or more at your booth. I know you want that sale. I get it. You want that money. You're thinking, oh my gosh, this is going to be really great. What if you said, you know what, you're about to spend all of this money with me, and I would love to be your consultant, and I'd love to take your money. Absolutely, because I know you're going to love everything that you just picked out. But did you know you can become a consultant for $99 and get all of this? And then explain what they get: a warmer, a bar, it's clean. I mean, you can just go through the list of everything they're going to get. Even if you just use it for your personal discount, you can actually become a consultant for basically, you can buy this stuff from yourself and get commission. And what if you have that conversation? Guess what? I can tell you, I have people that say, oh, okay, I guess I'll do that. Or they might say, ask me a few more questions. Sometimes I'll say, if you want me to, I can hold this for you. And if you walk around and you're still thinking about it, come back and we'll sign you up right away. And they come back and I sign them up right away. And then I give them their money back for the sale that I just made from them. You know why? Because as a team member, I am going to, number one, it's best for them. It truly is. And secondly, I have the opportunity now for their life to be forever blessed as all of the blessings that can come from them being a Sensi consultant. Give away the sale. Don't be afraid to give away the sale. Okay. So I want to make sure you guys, I know it's hard for some of you guys to think that way, but I assure you it is best for their interest and for yours to do so. All righty, now let's talk about pricing. So this is a biggie, and I know there's different ways, different opinions on this. I'm not a big fan of displaying pricing. Now for bars, no problem, that's fine. But whenever it comes to our higher priced items, I don't like to put the prices out. I want to have the conversation. For example, if I had a $140 little price thing next to the diffusers, or a range that said 130 to 140 or whatever I wanted to put, or 150, if I had that, customers walking by that know absolutely nothing about our diffusers, they don't know all of the features, but they see that price, they automatically are running. I'm putting on my jogging shoes and I'm running because there's no way I'm spending that. I don't even know what that thing is, but I'm not spending the money. When you don't have the price on it, they see this thing changing colors. They see some mist coming from it. It's beautiful, absolutely gorgeous. They come up to the table and they, say, and I can tell her, and she says, oh, have you seen our diffusers before? I start telling them, did you know these change this many colors, that they do this, that they do this, that now all of a sudden when they say, oh, well, how much is that? And I tell them how much it is. It's not much as a, oh my gosh, I better get my jogging shoes on and run. You're going to have a handful of those people, but there's other people that actually are oily people, or maybe they just love it, or because I've explained to them all of the benefits of having it and what it does, they're like, oh, wow, I had seen some of these at Walmart, but this is like really nice. This is like beautiful. And oh, the shades, I can get different shades. And, now all of a sudden that $140 is not as scary as if they would have just seen the sign and the sticker price. So just keep that in mind. Again, it's up to you. Marketing. Marketing is really important. You want to make sure that everyone leaves with something with your contact information. So here's what I personally do. The product lists, remember, they cost pennies. They do not cost a lot of money. Every human being, everywhere I go, gets product lists. I just share those things like crazy because at the end of the day, again, it's tax write-off. It is an expense that you can count on your business. But again, it's not going to cost you a lot of money. So that's what I hand out to the masses. Okay. When people make a purchase from me, I give them a showcase brochure. So that's what I put in all of my bags and all of my orders. My catalogs is what I save for my possibility packets or join packets, recruit packets, whatever you might call it. It's what I have in my host packets. It's also what I have in my customers that, are my regular VIP, regular purchasing customers. So that's what I save my catalogs for. And I tell you that because as some of you guys might be newer in the business, again, you've got to be efficient with your financial resources and your means. And the product list and the showcase brochures are great. Utilize those catalogs for those kind of next level customers or opportunities. At least that's what I do. I also use business cards, and I staple a sample onto all my cards. So again, I do hand those out really freely as well. I have found that if it smells good, people are much likelier to keep it. So that's why I like to have a sample stapled to my card. So that's why I do that. And again, this is another thing. People are like, oh, I love the idea of doing an event, but like, I don't know what I would say. And I'm just not like, I don't even, I don't only have this diffuser for a short time. I'm new. There's all these products, the Scentsy Clean. I don't know that much about it. Guess what? Each and every one of you guys have access to the product training guide. The product training guide is your Scentsy product Bible. If you would take that and study it, you can find it in your workstation, the product training guide. Some of you guys got it in your kit, depending on what kit you had, or maybe you have an old one and you need a new one, or you recently reinstated. You want the product training guide. You want to be memorizing. You should have a 20 or 30-second commercial on each and every product that we have. That way you're comfortable, you're familiar, and you're ready. Even if you don't happen to have the item there, but someone may ask you, hey, do you have any of those pod things? Somebody was telling me that there's some pods. You might not have one, but now you've got a 20 or 30-second commercial that you're trained up with product knowledge, ready to share that information out. So make sure that you're utilizing that as your guide when you're wondering, I don't know what to say, or your team member's like, but I don't know what to do. So there you go. Now you know what you can say. Credit card processing, of course, that is a common thing that is asked. There's lots of different merchants out there that you can use. Whenever you're selling cash and carry, you definitely want to make sure that you have a way to get their credit card information, or charge them then before they leave with the product. I personally have used Square for many, many years, and that is something that I have found to be really easy to learn, easy to use. I've never had any issues with it. A lot of my team members also use PayPal because they have their own, and there's many others to choose from. But that is something that you will want to look into and you'll want to have, because again, you don't want to be writing down people's credit card numbers and then them leaving with product in the event that they're not honest or their card is not good. So let's see, a couple of other things. Let's make friends with vendors, guys. Again, if you're wondering, well, I need more events, I need more shows, vendors are your friends. There are people that do nothing but every single weekend go show to show to show to show. So find out, what are your best shows? Where are you going next weekend? Make friends with them so that you can utilize their resources. Make sure they have your card. If you ever go anywhere, of somebody that needs a Scentsy consultant, here I am, here's my contact information. They are a great resource. Something that I also like to do, this is totally up to you, but something that we do whenever we do our events is I do give fellow vendors, those in the military and first responders, I waive the sales tax. It's just a little thank you discount. So if I can tell that they're any of those things, if they're wearing a vendor badge, if they, like, anyway, and if there's any indicators that I can tell, I do waive my sales tax. Again, it's just a little thank you. It's not costing me enough. I order everything in bundle and saves. So I'm always getting, a little extra here and there. So it's not hurting me to do that. And it's just a little way to say thank you. And I want the vendors, because I plan on doing this event year after year. So I want them to keep coming back to me and stocking up. In my case, it's like 8%, but it's 8%. So there we go. The couple last things that I wanted to mention that I think are really important, and then we'll wrap this up. One of which is we do need to make sure that if you're going to do an event, that you have read the Scentsy standards around events. There are some things that you need to know depending on where the event's located. If it's a retail location, what you can and can't do. If it's a farmer's market, there's some different things that you can and can't do. It's important that you as consultants are representing us as Scentsy as a whole well, and that you have read the Scentsy standards and you make sure that you're following them regarding events. If you're not sure, you still don't understand, then simply send an email to compliance@scentsy.com and ask them whatever questions that you might need some clarification on. But again, we want to make sure we're doing things the right way. And last but not least, much of what I've said is really not going to be very fruitful for your business if you don't do the follow-up. It's really important that at the end of your event, that you do the follow-up with those customers that purchase from you, with customers that filled out your contact forms, with customers that filled out your drawing, prize thing. The ones who didn't win, you still need to make sure, because again, you're leaving money on the table if you're not doing the follow-up. And there's going to be consultants like myself or Sarah or Karen or so many of you guys that when we meet them at our event, we will do the follow-up. And now all of a sudden they're on our team or they're booking their parties with us. So make sure you're doing, what you can to make that event as successful as possible. I hope that this was helpful and you guys were able to take some tips or some little nuggets and use them yourself or use them to help your team.
That was so good. Thank you. Do you have time to answer a couple of questions? I don't know what your schedule is, so I don't want to.
Oh, I'm good. Yes.
Okay. How do you handle, someone's asking about, do the bars melt in the heat? And yes, they will. So how do you handle warm events? What do you do?
Okay. A couple of things. Now I happen to be in Missouri and humidity can be absolutely horrible and we certainly get hot. Personally, I have found if they're not in direct sunlight and that we've been able to hang our bars up to 90 degrees. So again, and that is what we have found to be true, where they do not melt. I'm not saying we don't lose a dozen here or there, but out of 1,000, that's not bad, So another couple of other things that we have done under extreme heat or when there is more concerns or I don't have the option of necessarily being out of the sun, then what I do is I save all of the ice packs that they send with me, the Scentsy ice packs. We have a freezer, well, not completely full, but we have a lot of the ice packs. I use clear plastic bins. I don't know how to explain them, but they're just flat, like clear plastic bins. They probably are maybe 6 inches deep and I don't know, 2 feet in length. We layer one layer with the ice packs and then I put a bin on top and then we lay the bars flat, like 5 high in the bins. It's not ideal. It's not as pretty, doesn't look as nice, but they stay fine this way. And then I just put them out on tables. So that is something that we have to do. And then we check them and we rotate them. So we typically we have large coolers, like kind of like the 7-day coolers or whatever. So I keep all the backstock bars in there in little trays, like those aluminum disposable trays, like they're sorted by the scent. And we will rotate them out if it seems like some on the top are getting soft. We just kind of rotate them in and out. It's not pleasant. It's not ideal. It's not fun. But honestly, I mean, we've never lost like tons of bars as a result. We lose a dozen or so, big deal. I use them personally. I sample them out, something to that effect.
Another question, and I've been there and done exactly that. In fact, one event that we thought was going to be a cool event was like 105 degrees in Northern California, and we actually went and bought a mini deep freezer. So
yeah, I haven't had to deal with that extreme yet, but yeah.
And we did, and we swapped out just like that. So it was good that we had 2 of us for sure. Cash and carry, do you write up order forms?
Yeah, I do. In most cases, there are times when we are slammed, like it's just a madhouse. And I mean, we have a couple events where we do them and my husband jokes around, you don't know him, but he'll say something like, I mean, do they think we're the funnel cake line? Because I mean, we'll have people, seriously, 12 people deep waiting to pay. And so then I get stressed because I'm afraid they're going to leave or they're not going to wait. And so I can't say that every 100%, but I would say probably 85% of the time we do order forms. And of course, they always leave with our information in their bags too. Yes.
Another question. So someone was asking if they could split a booth with their jewelry and then add on a table for Scentsy. And I answered that in the chat that policy doesn't allow you to split. But so then her follow-up was then she probably wouldn't have enough product to do Scentsy. Will you just real quickly, briefly go over what you said in the beginning, kind of about you don't need a lot and
Absolutely. Yeah. In case you missed the beginning, my first event, I had 6 warmers and 22 bars. And I do know I remember this very vividly because it was my first event, is I sold a little over $200, mostly orders. I took mostly orders from people and I got a new team member that day. So that was really exciting to me. So one of the members of the church actually joined my team. So again, you don't have to have a lot of product to be successful. That's really, really important. And I tell my team members that are hesitant or they don't have the means to order any product, I'm like, you have a starter kit. Use your starter kit. That is all you absolutely have to have. If that's all you have, then that's fine. Start somewhere. We all had to start somewhere, so that is totally acceptable. But if you're going to just have your starter kit, then you need to be there, of course, smiling and happy and ready to engage in conversations and just be passionate about sharing the products, so that you can collect those orders and or focus on bookings. I've got team members that have no product except their kit every single time they do an event, and they just focus on bookings, 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 bookings. And they always leave with bookings, bookings, and bookings. So it can be done.
Two final questions I have, and then Sarah, if you have any questions, or Heather, if you have any questions. I know that we always have new team members who are apprehensive to try an event because it can be a little scary to start with, right? Do you think you'd be where you are in your business if you hadn't done those first events? I mean, you're a super, super successful superstar director. I've had the pleasure of our join dates are so close together, and I've had the pleasure of watching it. And do you think you would have had the success you did if you hadn't have done?
I can tell you that my first 2 directors were a result of people I met at events. So I did not know them any other way. So who knows if and when they would have ever came my way or be under somebody else. I can tell you that the majority of my sponsoring pre-2020, the whole COVID year, came from events, the majority of them. So,
and you're always a top trip earner. I mean, that's hands down. So,
and those, my team, and it's not because they joined right then at the event. That's what I want you guys to hear. It was because of conversation. It was because of collecting contact information. It was making connection. That usually I can get 1 to 3 team members at every event that I do. Maybe not that weekend, but it will happen, and they come as a result of that event.
And then this is just a personal question. When you get that, because it does happen, because people love our products, when you get that line like 12 deep, like you were talking about, where people are waiting and you're afraid they're going to leave, do you give them bags, or do you give them the little shopping things? I know different people handle that differently. When they're holding like 18 bars, do you just let them hold them? Because that's what I usually do, and I know there's a better way. So
no, I actually don't. We have a system to where there's usually at least 2 of us working the booth, depending on the event and what is necessary. Usually it's Joe and I, or me and a team member. So as soon as they pick out their selection, or when they already have 4, they already have 6, or they're kind of struggling, I will say, let me take those and I'll make a stack for you. And I have a place on my table behind where everybody else is that I keep them, where they're at. And so I just keep them that way, and I know where they're at in line and in order. So that way I have their stacks and their products all bagged up and ready to go.
Perfect. All right. What else do you guys have for questions? Anything? Sarah, do you have any?
I kind of want to, it's a question and kind of a comment, but just sometimes people are nervous too, because they're afraid they're not going to make their money back. Mm-hmm. And I kind of wanted to stress, a lot of times you don't make your money back that day. Mm-hmm. It's follow-up, like you said. And so I kind of, and a question too, are there times that you maybe pay even a small booth, $300, you're not going to maybe make commissions for $300 if it's a smaller booth or whatnot. But have you found that you do get it in the follow-up? Is it more beneficial follow-up?
There's been a few when I was just like, oh my gosh, so frustrated because it wasn't what I thought it was going to be. It didn't go the way I thought it was going to go. And then 3 days later, 7 days later, 10 days later, I get a new team member. Someone actually does call me to place the order, or when I'm making my calls and I'm following up with what handful of people I actually got to talk to, I get a booking out of it. So yes, it always does end up paying off. It's always beneficial. However, I do want to stress that if you don't have the $300 to just assume you're not going to get back, that weekend, then please don't do the event, or find a team member that you can share it with or something, just because you don't want Scentsy to become a stressor. It needs to be a blessing. And you'll come to a place when you keep working your business where the $300, you know what, if I don't get it back this week, it's fine. It's no big deal, because my commission is going to be way more than $300 because I've been working my business, and knowing that, again, through your follow-up, eventually that $300 will come. It truly will. And at least that's what I found to be true. But just, you do want to be smart financially with your choices.
Yeah. And I love that you can do it with other people. I love that. Thanks for bringing that up.
A couple more questions. Stacy wants to know, what's the most you've paid for a booth? You've done some big events, so I know the most I've paid for an event. I bet you've got me beat.
My state fair booth is, actually, I paid it because they've got my money still from, it got canceled 2 weeks before, and I told them just to keep it just because that was easier. It's about $3,600. However, we will sell around 40,000 in 11 days.
Yeah.
And I usually get 8 to 10 team members.
That's fantastic. My most expensive is the Alameda County Fair, which is a suburb of San Francisco, and it's a 14-day event, and it's about 3,000. So same deal, but you got me beat. So and I don't sell 40,000 when I've done it. Close, I've come close, but not quite 40,000. And then a couple other questions. Do you give any kind of flyer? So what do you include when you package a product? You're including a showcase brochure. And then are you giving them anything else with your information?
I have a postcard that's kind of like my story, or kind of like why pick me to join my team. I mean, it doesn't say that, but that's basically what it is. It just introduces who I am and that they can become a consultant too. It's just a postcard that I put in there along with that. And I did want to just back up real quick too, just because I don't want you guys to have a heart attack over the 40,000 or the 3,600 thing. Because I want you to know that the first year I did the state fair, same fair, and again, still 11 days. And at that point, I just had a 10 by 10 booth. So our booth fees were probably a little over $1,000, which to me was like a ginormous amount of money. There was 3 of us that split it. It was 11 days from 9 a.m. to 9 p.m. And I think we sold around $3,000. So it was an hour from my home, which I drove every day back and forth because I have a child with special needs, and overnight care is just not, it's not an easy thing to do. So I was like pretty defeated, to be honest with you, because I'm like, this is terrible. But every year I said, I'm going to keep going, because I got contacts. Again, this is 12 years ago. People didn't know how to say Scentsy, let alone spell it. So it was a little different time, but every single year. And so I didn't quit. I want you guys to hear that. And regardless events or not, I didn't quit because it was hard. I didn't quit because I didn't have the greatest success. I didn't quit because I wasn't tired from doing 9 to 9 for 11 days. I kept going. And as a result, now that same fair, again, I have a larger space now, and we sell about 40,000. I sponsor 8 to 10 people. So I want you guys to hear that things need to evolve. You have to stay in the game to win it. So regardless if it's talking event specific or just business in general, just stay in the game and you'll win it regardless of which way you choose to work it.
So a couple of questions, other questions. Kathy, I think, has the question everyone's going to ask. So if you sell 40,000 at the state, now you guys understand this is a state fair. This is not like, this is a huge, big event, right?
Yes.
How much do you forecast that you need to sell 40,000?
It's a lot.
And can we give the disclaimer that you don't go into debt to do this? Like you've built your business to a point that it supports purchasing this.
I know, and this is the uncomfortable piece of the conversation, but no, we typically do take about $60,000 worth of product, knowing that we're going to sell 40. But keep in mind, this event happens in August. I still have 2 more events that will do about half that. So not the 40,000, but we'll do about half that. I have 2 more events that happen in September. So whatever I have, left over, I'm able to then kick that right into my next events. And that's just what I do every year. I just know I pretty much got that, kind of take care of. I just have to add a little bit on. So I have that kind of insurance backup type of situation. So yeah.
And then do you display all your warmers at events?
I don't take every single warmer. So let's pretend there's 40 warmers in a catalog. I might have 18. I take the ones that I feel are that are the best sellers, the top sellers. That's ones that I sold a lot at parties through individual orders and previous events. Same with the scents. I don't take all 80 plus scents. I will probably have like maybe 65 or 70 fragrances, including like scents of the month, maybe some retired bars I still had on hand or LTO bars. So I don't take every single thing in the catalog. And again, depending on the size of my space, depends on what other items I bring. So if I'm doing a 10 by 10, I'm not going to have the pet line. I'm not going to have the clean. I'm not going to have the laundry. I'm not going to have those items because space just isn't going to allow me to really showcase the product I do have. So that's just what I have found to be the case. So it does kind of depend on the booth, what we take and how much we take of things.
And then Dawn was asking, how do you, if you bring a team member in to now, and I know you guys are a little different because you and Joe do this together, right? But
Yes.
let's like go back a little bit and let's, if you were in a financial place where you needed to bring a team member in, how would you work that?
So there have been some events that I've had team members that have asked me, would you do it with me? Because they didn't have the means to do it. So I've done it that way, kind of the reverse. And so in that situation, if the booth fee's 400, they pay 200, I pay 200. We sit down across the table and we decide, okay, what can you bring? She's like, okay, I can bring 10 $20 warmers. I can bring 2 $45 warmers. Whatever she's bringing, I will match. So that way we're bringing equitable product. And this is just how I feel, but I have a simple brain in the thinking process, and I'm not a math guru, genius, Excel spreadsheet queen. So we keep it simple. And so if she's bringing 40 bars, I'm going to bring 40 bars. So that's how we match everything. Then typically, depending on the type of event it is, a lot of times like we'll run it through my square. I mean, I don't care. They can run it through theirs too. It just doesn't really matter. And then we split all of the cash or the income 50-50 because we've brought the exact same amount of product. When the show is over, if we have, 2 $45 warmers left, she picks one, I pick one. If we have 20 bars left, she takes 10, I take 10. Everything is equitable, divided, simplicity. That's how I do it. And that's the only way I will split a booth. But again, that's just because, okay, that's just how my brain will handle it. Now, I do have events where, for example, like the state fair and my other 2 events I told you I had after the state fair that are larger events, I do offer to my team members, if they would like to come and they would like to work the event for leads, I will give them like a 2 or 4 hour time shift, slot. They can bring their own labels, their own catalogs, their own product stuff. I go over kind of how I do things and how what this is going to look like. They don't pay any money for booth fees and they don't bring any product. They are selling my product, but it costs them nothing but their time. And then they have the opportunity though, again, to get future business and leads and so forth. So I do that as well for my team members that want to do that.
That's fantastic. I think Megan had a question. You still have a question, Megan? You unmute if you do.
Yes, I did. So I was going to ask you, what do you find you sell the most? Because I've just done 2 events the past 2 weekends, and warmers obviously are not something that I find that sell well at the events. So what do you find sells the most?
Well, lots of bars. You cannot have enough.
That's what I did.
Yeah, you can't have enough bars. And I'm getting excited because more and more people are finding out about the pods and the pod products. So I think that is going to be probably, I would guess, the next year or 2, the next best thing to have at our booth is probably going to be pods. We're not there yet, but I see us going there, which I'm super excited about because they're $10. So
yeah, so I did a lot of bars. I did a lot of pods, the pod systems. I did the flowers. I sold a good bit of buddies. But it's kind of like the past 2 events I've done, I've sold like 1 warmer, which is a lot of packing, that it's just kind of like, why bring them at that point, Well, so, I mean,
if you're finding that to be the case at the events that you're doing, I would at least showcase like a variety of different warmers, like an element warmer versus one that glows a lot, one, and maybe depending on your situation, keep that in mind, especially if they're 1-day events or 2-day events. That's why I'm saying, depending on the type of event, My state
These
fair is
were like
11.
these were like few hours events.
Yeah. So no,
You
I
know,
wouldn't,
so
I would keep it very simple. I'd maybe have, I don't know, like I said, just spotlight the differences, the different type of warmers for those that have questions or maybe don't have them or haven't seen the element warmers or, something to that effect. But I think you're right on.
okay. Yeah, I mean, and it wasn't bad. The first one I did like 700 in orders and it was only like a 4 hour,
That's
and then
fantastic.
the other one, it was only like 3 hours and it was like 500. So
Wow,
it
that's
wasn't
great.
bad,
Yeah.
but I was just kind of like, I'm packing so much that it's kind of like, all right, what can I consolidate to make, the best?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
And Lori and Flory, that was Lori that lives in Florida. And Kathy are saying, and they both live in different areas, that they do sell a lot of warmers at their events. I think it's hit or miss for me, but we have a pretty good system for setup and tear down, but it does, if we're unpacking, it takes so long, for a while, Stephen made these wooden boxes on wheels that we could roll in and out and, all that kind of stuff. But it's still is a process. So give yourself plenty of time, hydrate if it's a hot event, do all that kind of thing.
Absolutely.
And then 2 more questions. Would you be willing to share your info sheet your postcard that you include in your packet?
Yes, I will just send it to you guys because I'm at my home, which I don't.
Oh, yeah.
Fortunately, I no longer keep anything pretty much in my home because now I have my Scentsy office. So yes, I will send you a picture of it. It's not fancy. I am not a graphic marketing branding genius, but it's simple and it has worked out just fine. So that's good news for those of you that are like me.
And then Vicki says that when she sells a lot of mini warmers, so she puts them in socks when she transports them so that she doesn't have to pack and unpack them. Last question that I see is, do you offer promos or do you do straight retail pricing?
I do bundle and save and corporate pricing. So if it's 10% off month, my stuff's 10%. Even if I didn't pay 10% for it, I still honor it because I want to go along with corporate pricing.
Excellent.
So
I saw one other question. Do you have an open or closed booth?
usually closed. If it's 10 by 10, I like closed. I have found you get too many people in there, people will just walk away because they don't get a stroller and it's like there's nowhere to go. So if it's 10 by 10, I do a closed booth. If it is larger than that, I'll typically I call it a half and half. So my warmer section is more of a closed section where I go behind. And then I have my bars freestanding and buddies and on the go stuff freestanding. And if it happens to be larger than 10 by 20, or I have a corner, a lot of times I'll do open. Again, it depends on all the traffic too, on the number of people that are coming through. So a lot of variances.
I see one more question. Sorry. Just if someone has a bunch of discontinued warmers, how would you price those at an event?
It depends on how bad you want to get rid of them. I personally, my stuff goes, I rarely have retired product, but I have had team members that have had like some real serious life circumstances or situations, and I knew they were sitting on stuff. So there's been a handful of times, again, extreme situations where I was like, you know what, if you want me to take a box, a case of them, like, 12 warmers or something, I will. Tell me what you want me to sell them for. And then they reorder me. So when I do that, then they end up reordering me like whatever. If I sell a warmer for 25, they order me 25 PRV product back that I tell them. But anyways, that's a little off topic. So I just usually have like a little thing that'll say like sale, ask me, or warmers on sale, ask me. So that way they have to ask me because I can't publicly advertise that these warmers are $25 or $20, but you can, mark them down and sell them for what, if you need to recoup them or you've been boxing or unboxing them a long time, then maybe it's time to do that. So you can get some wall fans and some pods and some new and different stuff that you are going to sell and move.
All right. Thank you so much, Tracy. Sorry.
You're very welcome.
A little longer. We had so many questions.
Thank you for having me. Thank you
did
so
wonderful.
much.
I appreciate you taking your time and
Absolutely
helping us. So
okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Everyone have a great night.
Bye, everybody.